It's our first time, but we're going to say welcome back to you and assume it's not your first time on one of these live prompt sessions. So I'm Jeff Marshall. I am the host of The Crucible with Jeff Marshall. And today I am paired up with Rachel. Rachel, the floor is yours for your introduction.
Thank you. My name is Rachel Jitsawat. I am the host of the Crush Chronicles podcast, which is a podcast that's inspired by my writing from my Substack of the same name, The Crush Chronicles. It's a serialized memoir. I release a chapter every couple weeks, and the questions are just based off of one of the chapters, but they really are what inspires the conversation to get going.
I love it. And my podcast is kind of related to the prompt that we're starting our conversation off of. So my podcast, I talk to people, highly successful folks, about their greatest failure or their crucible moment, which actually is, like I said, very closely related to the prompt we're going to chat about today, which Rachel was actually the one who came up with the prompt. So I'm going to ask you
Okay.
first. Should I ask you
Okay.
first? Actually, let me allow you. You want to go first, or you want me to go first
I
on
can go
today?
first. You can ask me.
All right. So we would like for you to tell the people a lesson from your past that has informed your future, or how you plan things in the future.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to refer to something that I actually don't really get to talk about in my podcast because so far in my podcast, I've talked more about childhood moments. And this is more when I was obviously grown up an adult and I became a mother. Both my kids were really young. I was still a pretty young mother. My youngest was a toddler. My first one was going into elementary school. And I was at the time I was unaware, but I probably had undiagnosed postpartum depression. And because of that, a result of that, I was dealing with anxiety, which I was very aware that I was dealing with anxiety. But those things enough are things that's already a lot on someone's plate. But I was a homemaker. I had been a homemaker since my first daughter was born. And I didn't realize it at the time. It's only kind of clear in hindsight, but I was having like a lot of mom guilt because I wasn't bringing in income. And I had like joined an MLM and I was trying to do it there. I was actually losing money with the MLM. So when my daughter joined school, I think again, more clear in hindsight, I think I was trying to, I can't think of the word, like make up for it. The fact that I felt like I wasn't bringing enough by throwing myself into volunteering with the school. It, I mean, I had always known I wanted to be involved with the school. I'm very passionate about it. I always have been. But I signed up to be the room mom like as soon as she was in kindergarten, and I did that every year because I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of a nerd. Like I like doing administrative work and stuff. So I enjoyed it, but I kept doing it every year, and not just for hers, but also when her little sister started going and I was doing it for both. But besides that, I had also joined the PTO and I had headed up the talent show committee. And that's a 2-year job. And I was even going to expand past the 2 years because when I was stepping down, nobody was stepping up to fill in the role. I didn't, but I almost did. That was when I was learning how to say no, which goes into a different tangent. But so yeah, I did that for 2 years. It was like the PTO's biggest thing, and I was totally a newbie, and I'd gone and done that. And then also, when my oldest had started kindergarten, she joined Girl Scouts, and so not only is that any family that has been involved in Girl Scout cookie selling knows it's an event. So that's already a lot. And not only did I do that, I started volunteering for that. And then I started doing the cookie coordinating for not just my own kids, but the whole troop. And then I stepped into the troop leader role. And by 2020, I was the troop leader for both of my girls. So I was doing all of this, and I had so many people saying, like, I don't know how you do it. And I do feel like, you know, parents, especially moms, get told this all the time, and you kind of just take it as like your badge, and you're just like, oh, well, thank you, like it's a compliment. But they are also kind of like, I don't know how you do it, because you're like you're doing a lot. So my lesson really was, after my really close friend, she was like, you're doing, you're basically pulling full-time hours for very little like compensate, probably over full-time hours,
Definitely over full time
actually.
because you didn't even
Yeah,
have being a mom.
yeah, being a homemaker and being a mom, that's already a full-time job. But that kind of like planted the seed. And then in 2020, we all know what happened. We all were kind of like forced to slow down. And that's when I let the MLM go, because I had to focus on both of my kids' homeschooling. They were both, my youngest, she had to start kindergarten like from digital learning. So that was already a challenge and stuff. So I focused on that. And then that's when I was still doing Girl Scouts. We were doing virtual, what do you call, meetings and everything. And although I enjoyed all of those things, I knew why I was doing all of it. What my friend said kind of like planted a seed in my mind. And I really realized like I was doing too much, and I was kind of running myself ragged, trying to prove to I don't know who that, you know, I needed to do all these things. And also it's like, you know, you do these things for the love of your kids. But again, the lesson is that I was doing so much that I probably wasn't doing everything to my best ability, because I was very scattered. You know, I was run down, and had to start letting things go. I had to start saying no to things. I stopped signing up to be a room parent. I let go of both of the troops, because we realized that it was just, you know, it wasn't really something that, even though Girl Scouts is great, it wasn't really something that was really serving our family. And I also, like I said, I did not sign up to do the talent show again. I let that go, because one thing that I also had to learn too was, you know, it's just because you're not going to show up to do it doesn't mean someone else isn't going to step up. And if they don't, the world won't end. Like, what, you know, the things that, you know, seem like so important because you take them on, you know, it was fine. Like, the kids were still going to be able to go to school. They were going to find, or someone eventually did end up, like, you know, coming to do the talent show and stuff. The Girl Scouts found another troop, or, you know, another troop leader, and I was actually able to regain some time. So how I help it to plan for the future is I try to make sure that I have balance in whatever I do. I try to make sure that, you know, I'm going to have time for myself, as well as time for my family, but also I need to try and make sure I don't overgive, because when you overgive, the, you know, the scales tip. You have to make, and you have to be able to give to yourself. So now I try to make sure I like literally try to schedule rest days into my planners, just to make sure that, you know, I can show up for myself as well as everybody else. So that's my lesson, and how it helps me plan for the future.
No, that's a great lesson. Balance is so necessary, and
Yes.
honestly, especially for women who are mothers and doing all the things. I can relate. My wife, we have two daughters as well. If you don't mind my asking, how old are your girls now?
Not at all. My oldest is 12 now. She's about to turn 13, which horrifies me. And then my youngest is 10. She'll be 11 in December.
Okay, so I have two daughters as well. I'm a girl dad and big advocate for women. If you can't tell by my art, um,
I
uh,
love it.
yeah. So I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and so
Oh,
the
so you
inter-
have double teenagers already.
yes, yeah, fun times. A lot less fun for my wife. Let's just say that, right? The dynamic is always great. Um, but there was she also had an issue trying to figure out the balance thing, and it's kind of always a work in progress because even as the kids get older, they get other activities, and
Yeah.
like my wife was part of the Great Resignation in 2021 and started her own business, but has found herself sometimes like leaning too heavy into volunteer things for the girls and not spending enough time on herself or on her business. And so she could 1000% relate with what you were saying. And I've seen it obviously secondhand. Like, I can't, I can relate to a point, but um, yes, you definitely need balance. That's a great lesson. So thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Okay, so what about you? What's your lesson that helps you plan for the future?
So I've got a very strong lesson. I'm going to ask folks, if you haven't listened to my podcast or watched my podcast, please do that. Episode 1 is probably one of the greatest lessons I've got from my past that's helped me plan for the future. I'll talk about it a little bit here in a moment, but I'm going to go back to, like, I'm going to have an Al Bundy moment if people don't mind, and I'm going to go back to actual high school sports for a second. In high school, I was a class clown. I was good enough to do the work. Like, the work never was too hard for me. But in some classes where the work was kind of easy, I tended to clown around a little bit. And so one of those things was writing and public speaking. So we had an English class that was focused on writing and public speaking. And I remember just always clowning around when friends were doing their speeches, and you would literally hear me on the video of us recording the thing, like joking with people. And I played basketball, and it was my senior year, and we were in the playoffs, in the state playoffs, and we had won the state championship the year before. And so we were in the semifinals, and I was clowning around to a point that I got a bad mark at my third week report, which is like halfway through a marking period. And our school was pretty strict with grades and marks, and behavioral marks. And so that mark, I was number two. Like, if we're looking at the stars of the team, I was like the number two guy. And so um, I got this third week report mark in that class because I was clowning around, and I couldn't play in the playoff game, and we ended up losing the game by 6 points. I was able, I worked some back channels and was actually able to go to the game. And so we thought there was hope that they would bend the rule a little bit and allow me to play, but they didn't. It turned out that the mark ended up being changed, but that's neither here nor there. What the lesson was, what I came to realize was it was my first time coming to the realization that what you do today, like, always affects tomorrow, right? And so
Yeah.
I didn't, especially as a child, you don't pay attention to that. One, you think you're gonna live forever. Two, you're not paying attention to tomorrow. You're only in the moment. And so in those moments where I was having a good time and clowning around and thinking, nothing was gonna come of it, because I write good papers and I can get a good grade, I got this mark that impacted us in a way that honestly I'll never forget, right? Like, so, and I played a lot of basketball after high school, but I still, refer back to and think back to that moment on this idea that, what you do today will always impact tomorrow. And so I try to think about that. I'm not perfect at it. I don't think anyone is, but how I try to carry that into the future is literally, thinking about tomorrow in the moment that I'm in. So, like, what decisions am I going to make? Um, and am I going to be able to live with these decisions, the next day or the next year or 2 years from now? And so that's kind of my lesson, that I think I probably revisit from time to time in my alone time.
I mean, that's a good one because you were really young, and I imagine it was probably painful for you to sit and watch and not be able to join. So it's no wonder why that really stuck with you.
Yeah, it was really bad. And then also, like, because of the type of school that I went to, the school is now closed, unfortunately, but I'm in Pennsylvania, and I went to a school that was a free private boarding school for veterans children in
Wow.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very interesting thing. They recruited very heavily from the Philadelphia area. And so a lot of, so we're all very close. That school was open for 100 something years. So we're all very, very close. It doesn't matter. It was probably 300 people at a time in the entire school from first to 12th grade. And
Oh, wow.
so people still to this day, they talk about things from the past. There are a lot of people that are living in the past, but they'll talk about sports a lot. And sometimes my name will come up in things, and then I go, "Yeah, I don't really want to." I don't really think about it because it didn't end well for me, and I feel like it was my fault and all of that. But life has been good since then, and I take the lesson and carry it forward, and it is what it is. So, you have
Yeah,
to.
and I feel like it's also very important now with social media because now it's like I mean you had evidence because you were in the video like clowning around, but now like we have to really be careful too with like what we say or post, or there's so much with that, like make sure we control our feelings before we do anything. So yeah, it's still like it's probably even more important of a lesson now to remember.
No, absolutely. Yeah, because one, childish, idiotic moment could stick with
Yeah.
you forever now. And not only just stick with you, right? Like stick with everyone else. Just follows you
Mhm.
everywhere you go. So you're right. Yeah. Social media is not our friend in that sense, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes speaking of kids, like it makes it tough. It makes it tough to raise children in this kind of day and age, right? Like, because most of parenting is trying to teach children from your own lessons anyway, right?
Yeah.
And then they go do the things you tell them not to
I was
do.
gonna say they don't listen.
They don't listen at all.
Like they don't think that we understand, as if we had never been that age before. At least that's my experience.
No,
They're
that
like, you
I
don't
think
get
your
it.
experience is everyone's
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. But I guess like when I reach those moments with my kids and they don't listen, or they think I don't understand, or they just go and do it anyway, I just have to remind myself that they have to also go through, like, sometimes the only way that people are going to learn is, I mean, some people call it the hard way, but they have to go through it themselves too. We can try all we can, but
Absolutely,
sometimes
absolutely.
they're just going to have to go through it, which is hard because when you're a parent, you just want to help and, do everything for your kid to make their life as easy as possible. But yeah,
No, absolutely. You can say, "Hey, don't touch the stove. It's hot. It's hot. It's hot. It's hot."
yeah,
But until somebody knows what hot is, doesn't mean anything to
yeah,
you, right? So sometimes they touch
yeah,
the stove, and now you know what hot is, and you'll never do that again. So yeah, you're
yeah,
right. They have to live these things themselves sometimes. It's just hard for us, right? Because we're like, we already been through it. Like just,
yeah,
but our parents are saying the same thing about us.
yeah,
And not to make this all about parenting, but from a lesson standpoint, I think one of the lessons we all learn when we become parents is that, oh my God, our parents were just doing the best they could. Like,
yeah,
because as soon as you have to parent a kid, you're like, oh my God, like I get it now. Like they were just doing the
yeah.
best they could with the information that they had. So yes,
Yeah, I think one of my lessons with parenting was there's just no, like, we can read all the books, which the books can be helpful, but there's just no way to properly fully prepare for parenthood. And especially if you have more than one, that they are two completely different human beings. What works for one is not going to work for the other, and so on and so forth. Like there's just like you really truly every parent's doing the best that they can because you're just trying to figure it out not only as a parent but with your own individual little ones as
absolutely.
much as you can.
No, that is definitely true. That is just something to marvel at. You're right. Both of you came from me, but you're this and you're that. And then
Yeah.
the whole saying about it's hard to parent. It's hard to parent the you out of your children because that's usually the thing that bothers you the most with your kid is the things that you do.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind
So
of like a rude awakening when your kid does something and you're just like, wait, like I should be mad at you, but also I think you may have learned this from me. So
yeah.
what do we do now?
And that's when the other parents like, no, this is so you. Like my wife will do, this is so you. And I'm like, I'm
My
sorry.
husband and I do that all the time. I'm like, that's your kid. That was totally a your kid trait.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. Um, so when we talked earlier, we were talking, for a moment, we had a conversation about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So let's you know what? let's talk about that. That's a rough turn, but I'm just making the turn here because I think because so for those of you who don't know, there was another lesson that we learned. Rachel and I had a conversation earlier, but we weren't live. So that's a lesson
If you're
from our
if you're
past.
wondering why this one's happening late, that's why.
There you go. And in the spirit of radical candor, we felt like we would share that with you.
Yeah,
As embarrassing as it might seem, we're not embarrassed. It was just like, hey,
yeah,
there was no button to
it
push.
happened.
But I thought we meandered into a conversation around imposter syndrome, which is like one of those things that a lot of people suffer from. Many of them quietly and on their own, but it's just I think it's one of those things that people should hear about and understand how people get through it. And so you let's discuss that. Like ways have you ever had to deal with imposter syndrome and if you do, what are some ways that you try to work through it?
I mean, I'm dealing with it right now, like all day, every day. um, so I mentioned this in our previous conversation, like we mentioned, because obviously, like I've been a homemaker, and obviously now I'm doing a podcast. But when I go to like networking things, or even just showing up somewhere online, or whether it's a community, or signing up for a webinar or whatever, I'm just kind of like, what am I doing here? I I haven't made any money. I haven't even reached my first year anniversary of my podcast. I haven't even hit like 2000 download, whatever it may be, like just all the things running through. But I remember I once saw the actress Jenna Ortega, who, if anybody doesn't know, she played Wednesday Addams on the new Netflix series, among many other things. Very talented actress. But in an interview, somebody asked her where she gets her confidence from, because if you've ever seen her off camera during red carpets or interviews, she is there and she knows it. And she was just like, she's like, I used to be very meek and whatever, just talking about how she used to be very shy about it. And she was like, but somebody told me to just walk into the room with the confidence of a like a confident rich white man who just knows that he should be there. And that's what that's just what she does. And I was like, for some reason, that was a light bulb moment. And because she was just saying, like, I deserve to be there just as much as anybody else, whether I'm younger or whatever it is. And so I try to, one of my coping mechanisms with imposter syndrome is trying to go back to me seeing her say that for the first time, and just reminding myself that I don't, like, I also deserve to take up space. I am also doing the work, whether or not I think I've been here or there or anywhere yet. Um, I do deserve to be here. It's it's hard, and like I said, I deal with it right now. I'm like, why do I deserve to be here and talking to Jeff about my podcast? But I do. I have one, and I'm here.
Absolutely, and a
Yeah.
good one. So you definitely not only deserve to take up space, but it's kind of required of you. So what I'll tell you is, outside of podcasting, I am an executive in the advertising industry. I've been in advertising and marketing and PR for 25. We're working on the 26th year right now, and so I made my way into the C-suite. But what's interesting is I too often find myself going, "What am I doing here? Like, why?" I revert back to the little kid who, grew up with, less than, right, most people. Although at the time we didn't know, like we had a great childhood, but you know, that kid is still in there, and so he often like pokes his head out and when I'm in spaces that I never imagined I'd be in, so what I tried to do was reflect on like work that I've done that has, basically shown that I should be where I am now. Like I'm only here because of these bricks that I laid on this particular road. And I actually talk to people a lot about a couple of things. One is the power of their story, right? And when I talk to young people in particular, there's this thing that I do at the end of my workshops with them where I ask them all, have you ever been to a black church? Some will say yes, some will say no, whatever. It depends on the room. But I say we do this call and response thing where I'm going to tell you to turn to your neighbor and say a thing, and then you're going to say it to each other. And I'm going to paraphrase it, one because I don't have it in front of me and it's a pretty long saying. But basically, what I tell them is, you're here in this universe with a particular set of gifts and skills that are unique to you. And if you don't use those gifts, then we, the rest of the universe, have to go on never having benefited from the presence of you and your gifts, right? So we lose out when you don't share your gifts or your story, right? Because you think, oh, my story is not deserving, or we think my story is not deserving. But in reality, it's, your story it wasn't for you anyway, right? Like it was meant for you to go through that, to tell other people about it, so that other people who are sitting in that same space could go, oh, that's how I get through. I mean, even on this call, you talked about, the raising two daughters and feeling less adequate because you were only a mother and a homemaker, and so you volunteer for all these things. And I was like, oh, that happened in my house, right? My wife went through the same thing or is going through the same thing. So that's the power of stories. And so when we have those imposter syndromes, moments, we need to really take a moment of reflection and go, no, I'm here for a reason. Maybe it doesn't make sense to me how I got here, right? But I'm here for a reason. So let me just be here and own this space. I'm not taking up space from anyone else. I'm owning the space that was created and made specifically for me, because no one else can walk in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all forget how unique each one. Well, just like I said, my two kids both came from me and my husband. You would think there would be more similarities. No, they're both completely two different people. I think we all forget how extremely unique we are. And, storytelling, like you said, um, it's meant for everyone. And that's like the oldest like tradition that we've ever had. Like take away all the, go back years, take away all the electronics, all the whatever. I mean, that's all we really had was storytelling. And I think too, um, how you said like stories are meant, like your story is really meant for someone else. Like it's yours to go through an experience, but to share it with someone else. I think just the sheer amount of podcasts that are out there, because there's thousands,
Hmm.
and they're so widely successful, which if you think about it is so kind of funny because podcasts came out, well, like I think right when the DVR era was coming in, like TV and movies were already well established and streaming was on the brink. And you would think that podcasting would have been a step back in entertainment because it's kind of going back to radio, but it's so successful. There's more podcasts than ever. And all podcasts really are is it's just sharing of stories, whether it's interview based, whether it's, true crime stories, or, people writing and reading their own excerpts. Like it's all just storytelling. So I think that's also very telling of, what you were saying.
That is so true. It is. You know what? It did though. It democratized storytelling, right? Which probably like
Yeah.
plays into our imposter syndrome about being like, who wants to listen to me talk, right? Because for all this time, TV and radio kind of owned the space of who could talk to you and tell you stories.
Yeah.
Now it's like democratized, and to your point, we find out that maybe what was missing from that human connection was the sharing of more stories on a broader platform. So yeah, that's a great call out. Um, but yeah, so it's this space is interesting. It's been fun to be in it. And I didn't listen to podcasts before I started my own. I wasn't, I just this was one of those things. I was always like listening to music I had, maybe on title or whatever. But once I started it, because I had the same thought, I was like, who wants to listen to me tell a story? And mine started in the middle of a crucible moment, actually. So just for the sake of conversation, so the work that I do now, although I have advertising and marketing experience, I shifted into the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion in like 2018, and had a phenomenal time doing that and was very successful with that. But my role at my last company was eliminated in May of 2024.
Hmm.
And then I got inducted into the Marketing Hall of Fame in May of 2024. So that was not.
Wow.
But the funny thing about it was, in that crucible moment, I started the Crucible podcast because I had talked to people in a workshop about what I consider to be my big crucible moment. And so, you know, up until then, though, I was like, who wants to listen to me talk about anything? Nobody. Like, but to your point, like these, the democratization of podcasting has been good for everyone. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I love that. That's great. So what made you start? So I know you're so with the Crush Chronicles. I know you mentioned it's based on your memoir in Substack. What made you turn the corner to podcasting?
So it was really a lot of like exploration and learning. I had gone to a convention and I went to a panel that was for like creative professionals
Hmm.
working on their online presence. And there was also like a networking element too. But one of the like advisory steps that they gave at that panel was do whatever you can to get your eyes on your work. And speaking of imposter syndrome, the thing that he said before that was if you think you're XYZ, so like for example, I was a writer at the time. I still am, but that was what I was going there for. I had just started my Substack. I was trying to figure out like how to get eyes on it. And he was like, first of all, how many of you here are writers, or how many of you here are illustrators or filmmakers? And he was like, but how many of you actually say to other people that this is what you are? And almost none of us raised our hands.
Wow.
So that was like the first lesson in my imposter syndrome was I still have trouble doing it. I don't bring up like, oh, hey, I'm a writer and a podcaster. Usually when people ask what I do, I'm like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like I completely leave out all this other work that I do, most of the week. So that was the first lesson that he said. He was like, if you're a writer, you need to say you're a writer. Like you need to introduce yourself as it. But also he was like, do whatever you can to get your eyes on it. And he was like, whether it's start a YouTube video, start an email list, a community. And one of the things he threw out was podcasting. And I had previously been a guest on a friend's podcast a couple times and it was really fun. So I had kind of had that in the back of my mind. And I was like, well, maybe I should take this step, So really when I started my podcast, it was created to be a lead to my Substack. But as most things do, whenever you step into a community, it grows into something completely different. So I'm on my second season now, and it's really so much more about connection and discussing relationships and like discovering what you can learn about yourself through the crushes that you had when you were younger, because we kind of forget, like I think we think crushes are juvenile, but we still have crushes going into adulthood. Like, before we all got married, we probably had a crush on our spouse and we were adults. But there's so much to learn about, the people that used to like and how you used to interact with them. And, it's been like a great fun discovery to talk about this with all of my guests, and also to discover that a lot of the things like, and I'm talking about like a lot of cringeworthy things too, like embarrassing moments that I had when I was younger. I was not the only one, but this whole time, I'm like 40 years old. This whole time I thought I was the only one experiencing these like cringeworthy, dumb, embarrassing moments. But whenever I would interview someone, they were like, oh yeah, me too. I was like, really? So it's been really fun. And so what started as just some professional advice and, trying to use it as a lead magnet turned into something completely different.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I wonder if it also, do you think, to date, has it helped? Because I know you mentioned earlier you're kind of shy in some of the networking spaces, but now, being, in a space where you're talking to people one on one constantly, have you seen any change from that? Any growth from that, or is it still?
Um, meaning growth for me, like with my shyness.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. So I just went to an event on Sunday, and we, of course, as we do when you do the thing, you have to introduce yourself. It's like the shy person's nightmare. Um, but it was one of the first times that and granted, I had been in this space a couple times, so I was a little bit more comfortable because I was a little bit more familiar with the space. So that did help. But it was the first time that I was like, hey, I'm a writer and a podcaster. My name's Rachel Jitswat. This is what it's called. And if you want to be a guest, I'm looking for guests. And the amount of faces that lit up, I was not expecting, because I'm talking to other small business entrepreneurs that are also, most of them were women, and that was something that I really wasn't expecting. So it kind of made me think like, oh, they're thinking of me as the person that can be a beacon, as opposed to me like going around meekly to other people and be like, hey, do you want to be on my little podcast? Like they were thinking, oh, this is a person that can help me grow too. So that was probably the biggest, and that was very recent. Like I said, that was earlier this week.
Yeah.
That was probably like my biggest recent light bulb moment.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's eye opening. It's like when all of a sudden, like, you're the
Yeah.
person in the room that people are like wanting to approach. Like, I didn't come in here thinking that. Like,
Yeah. No.
that's,
Yeah.
oh, that's great. And honestly, like, what a way to get guests, right? To be in the room,
Yeah,
like,
and I was surprised too, like even
yeah,
afterwards, if they didn't approach me at the event, I was getting messages on my Instagram afterwards, like asking how they could, and I was like, yeah, I was like, let's do it. So yeah.
that's awesome. I might put something on my. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I haven't asked like broadly like, hey, who will want to be a guest? I think some folks would, but I
yeah,
I was going through and cherry picking folks for my first so I have 2 seasons fully recorded already. I'm just releasing them slowly, but um, I didn't even think about that. So I just learned something right there to just if I just ask, it might not be as tough to get guests if I just
yeah.
go
I
in
mean,
spaces, go, hey.
for my first season, it was they're all my friends. And that was kind of all of my friends saying yes, because I only interviewed 6 people for my first season. All of them saying yes kind of made me have to do the podcast, because before I was like, well, we'll see if I can even get anybody to interview. I texted all of them in the same day, and by the end of the fastest I had ever gotten responses to anything, by the end of the day they had all said yes. And my friend who was with me when I was trying to plan it out, she was like, well, you have to do it now, and I was like, I guess I do. So yeah, my first season was just friends, but this second season I'm really trying to like, reach out. And yeah, it's been hard, but yeah, it's just like, yeah, let me know.
Yeah, no, you'll get there. I think that's
Yeah.
how it. My guess is that's how it starts a lot of times. Like mine
Yeah.
are friends. I have a bunch of friends who have asked like, "Hey, like just you can go." Basically, one of my friends was like, "Oh, you could just go through our whole like circle and get people." And I was like, I know, there's a lot of great people that have done great things, but I don't want us to be talking to each other." Like, I was like, I need to. So the folks I've been using on mine are friends of mine, but they don't all know each other, right? So
Oh, nice.
that was one of the benefits of doing it the way I did it. But now I'm probably at a point where it doesn't. I'm just like, okay, I can probably ask broadly and get as many stories as I possibly can. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's folks had told me years ago, oh, you should start a podcast, and I literally was like, about what? Like, and they're like, oh no, you do, like you're so calm in front of the camera, or you talk, I used to have to do town halls and stuff for work, and I'm very comfortable like with the light on, but I I never look at anything. I never looked at anything that I did. Like, so I often tell people, and I'll tell you this too, and this is probably what your friends saw. You can't see yourself the way the world sees you. So you just have to remember that, right? That when you look in the mirror, you see all your flaws. That is not what everyone else sees. It's like when
Yeah.
you do a talk, or even like you might happen on your podcast, you might mess up on something in your mind, but no one knows unless you reveal, like I did earlier. No one would have known. They would have just assumed there was a technical difficulty, but I didn't want to set them up like that. I wanted to let them know it
Yeah.
was me. um, but you know, like, but you can't. So keep that in mind. You cannot see yourself the way the world views you, and so if you
No,
do
that's
that's
a really
probably
good point.
fans responded quicker to that than they did to the text of where do you want to eat at tonight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's true.
Well, I think I know we can go as long or as short as we want. We're at a 41-minute mark, and I think I'm good unless you have some questions for me, Rachel. This has been a blast.
No, I'm surprised it's already at 41 minutes. That
I
went by really
know,
quickly.
I know. This did go fast. This actually went faster
Yeah.
than the earlier
Yeah.
when no one was watching. Um,
Yeah.
but no, it's been great getting to know you. I'm definitely going to support your podcast and listen to it, and maybe work
Thank
up
you.
courage to talk about a childhood crush stupid story of my own. Like I don't know. We'll see if you can get that out of me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Challenge accepted. I'll see. But yes, I'm definitely going to check out your podcast too. I can't wait.
Oh,
Um,
please do.
yeah.
We've got so your second season is starting. Did you start your second
I'm in
season?
the middle of it.
Middle of it.
Yeah.
Um, so I am actually in the like I'm in a bit of a holding pattern before I launch into my second season. Like I said, it's already recorded, but we are. I'm adding a version to my. Is your podcast all audio? Or do you-
Yes, right now it's all audio, but I am going to try and move into doing video in the future. Like hopefully by season 3, I will be set up for it.
Nice, nice. So we launched in. I lucked out. Like I have a phenomenal producer who's like literally like a member of the academy.
Oh
And
wow.
and he believed in the mission so much that he was like, we got to shoot it. And I was like, I cannot afford you. Like, so, so our production quality is like top notch. He has his own company, and our production quality is top notch. So I'm going the opposite direction because I can't like if we were to do a Zoom, if I was to have you on my podcast and we did a Zoom, I couldn't put the quality of that video up against what I'm already doing because it would mess with my brand, right?
Yeah.
So I created
Yeah.
an extension called the Crucible Off Camera, where I could interview someone who's from California or Texas or somewhere that can't get to where we shoot at in Philly or New York,
Right.
and I could release the audio version obviously on a live, but then the Zoom version would never be seen. And if I needed to put it on my YouTube channel, it would just be my graphic for the episode. So
Right.
we're in a holding pattern because I'm trying to grab someone to do the first of the off camera. And once I do that, then we'll launch into season 2 and share those. The off camera will just become a steady thing that happens. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good idea.
yeah. So it's the branding and marketing mind.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you'll be fine on camera because this has been great, and I would certainly listen or watch your podcast. So best of luck.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and to you too.
Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure. We should stay in touch, and then we have
Yes.
some contact information. So we'll stay in touch. I just want to hear how things are going. If ever you need an objective voice from, the East to say, "No, you got this, girl," like feel free to hit me.
Thank you.
I'll be there for you. I will make sure that you stay in that Jenna Ortega era.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I'll probably need it.
Every once in a while, but it's all right.
Yeah.
You'll work through it. You did it before. You'll do it again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been another phenomenal, I hope. Because we're not watching, we're in it. So you guys tell us.
Yeah.
Episode of Alive Prompt. Thank you to Angel, Miriam, and the whole team at Alive
Yes.
Podcast Networks for having us. We're happy to be a part of the family, and this has been great for us. So hopefully it was good viewing for you.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
And with that, we will bid you adieu.
Yep.